The South Korean police are tracking down the suspect behind the massive data breach at e-commerce giant Coupang using the suspect's IP address. South Korea broke the record for outbound shipments for any month in November last month on the back of strong demand for semiconductors and automobiles. In light of the upcoming first anniversary of the botched martial law order by former President Yoon, President Yoon will deliver a special statement this Wednesday. It's set to officially declare the restoration of the country's democracy during a conference with foreign media. We begin with a massive data breach at e-commerce giant Coupang. The police are now tracking the IP address of a suspect after South Korea's biggest e-commerce platform announced over the weekend that over 30 million private accounts have been compromised. Cha Yoon reports.
The police said on Monday that in the course of their investigation into the case, they secured the IP address of a suspect in the Coupang personal data leak. An official at the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency said at a regular press briefing that officers had received server log records from Coupang, and during an analysis of them, they secured the IP address a suspect used in the crime and were tracking it down. The SMPA said the nationality and current status of the suspect were under verification, adding that no reports of secondary damage have been received, and the agency is working closely with relevant ministries. The U.S.-listed e-commerce firm Coupang, which mainly operates in South Korea, publicly apologized on Sunday after the personal information of more than 33.7 million users was stolen. The apology came just 10 days after the company revealed on November 20th that customer account information in 4,500 accounts had been leaked.
I would like to offer my sincere apologies.
Minister Bae Kyung-hoon of the Ministry of Science and ICT also said on Sunday that an unidentified attacker took advantage of a server authentication vulnerability in Coupang's system, enabling them to access users' names, email accounts, phone numbers, and addresses. Meanwhile, Coupang said there was no exposure of payment details or login credentials. Local media outlets reported that a Chinese former employee at Coupang who left Korea and moved back to China was suspected of being behind the data breach. The company, however, declined to comment on the suspect's identification. Coupang said that the unauthorized access to personal information appears to have been made through overseas servers starting June 24th. Users of Coupang are voicing frustration and raising concerns about secondary harm, criticizing the company for taking 5 months to realize there had been multiple data breaches. Cha Yoon, Arirang News.
South Korea's exports hit a record November high, driven by surging semiconductor and automobile shipments despite concerns over U.S. tariffs. Our Moon Ji-young has more.
Exports hit a record high for any November, rising 8.4% year-on-year to just over $61 billion, driven by strong chip and auto demand. According to the Trade Ministry on Monday, cumulative exports from January to November reached $640 billion, putting Korea on track to top $700 billion for the first time. Semiconductors led November's gains. Chip exports jumped nearly 39% to an all-time monthly high of over $17 billion, boosted by rising memory prices and continued demand for high-value products used in AI and data centers.
It's still a bit early for me to give a full outlook for next year, but when it comes to semiconductor exports, the expectation for now is that chip prices will remain relatively strong into next year. Much of that momentum is driven by continued demand from AI servers and data-related applications.
Autos also posted solid growth. Exports rose more than 13%, powered by internal combustion models and hybrids, despite U.S. tariff pressure.
The recent tariff agreement has also played a meaningful role in boosting corporate operating profits and reducing uncertainty. Over the medium to long term, it is expected to strengthen the export competitiveness of automakers.
Petroleum and petrochemical shipments fell on oversupply concerns, while steel exports dropped 16% amid high U.S. tariff and weaker global demand. By region, exports to the U.S. inched down 0.2% as gains in chips and cars were offset by sharp drops in steel and machinery. Exports to China rose nearly 7%, and shipments to the Middle East jumped over 33%. Industry Minister Kim Jong-un said the continued recovery reflects strong performances in semiconductors, automobiles, and biohealth. He added that Seoul's recent submission of a special bill linked to its $350 billion U.S. investment pledge meets conditions for Washington to lower tariff on Korean vehicles and auto parts. Imports rose 1.2% to $51.3 billion, generating a trade surplus of $9.73 billion. 문지영, Arirang News.
This coming Wednesday, the nation marks the first anniversary of the brief military rule imposed by former President Yoon Suk-yeol. On the anniversary, President Lee Jae-myung will address the nation, stressing the efforts by the people and the restoration of a key democracy. Our Presidential Office correspondent Yoon Jang-min reports.
President Lee Jae-myung will deliver a special statement on December 3rd, the first anniversary of the martial law declaration by his predecessor.
The statement will be about remembering the efforts by the people who have turned extreme chaos into peace.
A press conference is also scheduled on Wednesday with dozens of foreign journalists, as the secretary added that the anniversary will be remembered in a calm manner, but meaningful.
It will be held under the title of A Renewed Democracy, 1 year on. The president will declare the restoration of K-democracy to the international community and deliver a message of national unity.
Later in the day, Lee will have a luncheon with the 5 key figures, including South Korea's Supreme Court Chief Justice. Ahead of the anniversary, the president took to social media on Monday, saying if you neglect acts of insurrection that are lurking on every corner, it'll surely recur someday, as he posted a related article. It's widely seen as him revisiting his will to make sure any remnants related to the short-lived military ruling would not go unpunished. On December 3, 2024, former President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law, citing a fight against anti-state forces, which was lifted 6 hours later after it was voted down by the National Assembly. It has resulted in him being removed from the office, who's now facing insurrection charges. Yoon Jang-min, Arirang News.
So a lot has happened since the night of the martial law order. One question, however, still remains to be answered. How will those responsible for the actions on December 3rd, 2024 be criminally charged? Or, as a matter of fact, will they be? Our Kim Do-yeon keeps us to date.
1 year since special forces and tanks were deployed to the National Assembly in the middle of the night. Then President Yoon Suk-yeol, while not politically impeached, awaits his ruling for criminal charges. In the immediate aftermath, 3 different agencies, the Corruption Investigation Office, prosecutors, and police all jumped in to catch the biggest suspect in their history. But the initial probe stalled. The game changed when President Lee Jae-myung took office in June. His very first law as president channeled everything down to one team, the Insurrection Special Council. Led by Cho Eun-suk, this team is now solely responsible for investigating and charging Yoon with insurrection. Soon after the special probe started, Yoon was detained again in July, cited for the risk of destroying evidence. By August, dozens of his cabinet members and military leaders were also indicted. And as the probe went deeper, the special counsel added explosive new charges alleging that Yoon used drones to provoke North Korea in October to manufacture a hostile atmosphere, effectively creating a pretext to legitimize the martial law that followed.
Defendants Yoon Suk-yeol, Kim Yong-hyun, and Yo In-young conspired to harm the military interests of the Republic of Korea by increasing the risk of armed conflict between the North and South, with the goal of creating conditions to declare martial law.
But the main charge remains insurrection. Under Article 87 of the Criminal Act, insurrection is defined as creating violence to subvert the Constitution. A ringleader of a rebellion faces death or life imprisonment, while their followers also face heavy punishment. Yoon's defense, remains consistent. The declaration was a legitimate act of governance and the military deployment to the National Assembly was merely to maintain order. While former military officers testified that Yoon ordered key opposition politicians to be detained, Yoon claims he never gave specific targets, only mentioning anti-state forces.
When I say anti-state forces, isn't that referring to spies who are targets of counter-espionage investigations? It's not about regular people.
He argues the decree was also a necessary warning to the public about an opposition party that was paralyzing the government, not an attempt to subvert the constitution. The special prosecution team rejects this entirely. It has described the event in court as a terror against democratic institutions. The judgment, however, begins with the cabinet. Former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo faces his verdict on January 21st. Prosecutors have requested a 15-year prison sentence. Their argument is that the then Prime Minister had a constitutional duty to stop an illegal order, but he failed to do so.
Although I could not stop the martial law, I never intended to agree with or aid it. That is the most honest confession I can make in this historic court.
If the verdict accepts insurrection charges, this will set the tone for the rest of the rulings. As for former President Yoon, his fate will be decided soon. The court has scheduled his final closing hearings for January 5th, 7th, and 9th. As for the investigation itself, the official investigation period ends in just 2 weeks. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
With just 1 day left before the deadline to pass next year's budget, the ruling and opposition parties have launched the last-minute negotiations. On Monday morning, floor leaders from the Democratic Party and the People Power Party met for a second straight day to bridge their differences on key spending items. Sticking points include funding for local gift certificates, policy programs, and special activity expenses for the presidential office. Cuts the PPP is pushing for, and the DP is refusing to accept. The legal deadline is midnight Tuesday, and with the National Assembly meeting only twice in the past, all eyes are on whether the rival parties can strike a deal in time. In North Korea, the regime unveiled what appears to be a new long-range air-to-surface missile, resembling the German-made Taurus, signaling a push to upgrade its air power. Pyongyang reports.
On Friday, North Korea publicly unveiled a new long-range air-to-surface missile for the first time in what appears to be part of a broader effort to modernize its air power. The weapon, visually similar to the German-made Taurus system operated by South Korea, was displayed at an event marking the North Korean Air Force's 80th anniversary. Analysts say the new missile, widely dubbed the North Korean Taurus, could significantly extend the strike range of North Korea's aging combat aircraft if its claimed performance is realized. Attending the ceremony with his daughter Chue, her first public appearance in nearly 3 months, Kim Jong-un declared that new strategic military assets and new important missions have been assigned to the Air Force. He stressed that the service would play a full part in exercising nuclear deterrence and must repel reconnaissance activities and possible military provocations by adversaries. North Korea has been accelerating efforts to upgrade its conventional air capabilities, revealing new unmanned aircraft and an airborne early warning platform earlier this year, and conducting mid-range air-to-air missile tests. Experts believe Pyongyang may be receiving direct or indirect support from Russia as military cooperation between the two deepens. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff cautioned that North Korea often unveils new systems before they are fully tested, and said further evaluations are required to determine their operational capability. Pyongyang, Arirang News.
Aid from Korea is offering a lifeline to women and girls in some of the world's most fragile conflict zones. And to talk about the significance of the funding and how it's making real changes at the site, experts from different country offices visited Arirang TV. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
War is a nightmare for everyone, destroying every part of life. But women and girls often suffer the most and end up paying the highest price. Since September last year, South Korea's state aid agency KOICA has been funding the CFP program, which supports conflict-affected and fragile countries through humanitarian assistance. One of the funded partners is the UN Population Fund, which focuses on the urgent needs of women and girls in the world's most dangerous areas. Working in 6 countries, the Central African Republic, Mali, Somalia, South Sudan, Lebanon, and Palestine, the agency provides integrated sexual and reproductive health services and support for survivors of gender-based violence. The program is already making a difference, helping a woman in South Sudan safely deliver a baby after losing 3 previous pregnancies, and giving psychological and legal support to a rape survivor in Mali. Miracles happen in Palestine as well, where 90% of its health facilities have been destroyed.
The funding from the Korean population people is supporting 17 health facilities to continue some semblance of health services. And this is a full package. The money we use it to pay for midwives who are available in Gaza. We bring in medical supplies, commodities, so that midwives can use these commodities to actually address the issues.
Placing women and girls at the center of aid is essential. They are often the most vulnerable, frequently left behind as others compete for limited resources. Another expert adds that working with men, as well as local and traditional leaders, helps build peace from the grassroots up.
We cannot build peace from above, but we have to generate it from the bottom by, first of all, giving the most vulnerable people of the society access to services that would not have been there because of the competition of that resource, and at the same time involve everybody to have discussion on peaceful coexistence at the community level.
South Korea's aid is arriving at a crucial time as global donor investment continues to shrink. Experts say Seoul's experience, once an aid recipient and now a major donor, can serve as a model for fragile countries. To ensure the funding has a lasting impact rather than being a one-off measure, they highlight 3 key factors: sustainable financing, private sector partnerships, and knowledge transfers. One more, they add, is helping young people gain access to technology.
This young population, also in fragile context, they are eager and savvy for learning technology. If there are things that we can put together, also with the support of the private sector, to help us establish initiatives that are long-lasting, impact, income-generating initiatives, especially for this younger cohort, that could be also a way to help us continue the work that we do.
Amid the destruction and loss, South Korea's efforts are giving hope that peace can still grow from the ground up. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
A K-pop boy band Stray Kids has claimed its 8th #1 on the US Billboard chart with its new album, Do It. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 in the week ending November 27th. Following its album Karma, which topped the chart this past September, Stray Kids has become the first act to have all 8 of its Billboard 200 entries debut at #1 in the 69 years of the chart's history. This run began with the album Ordinary back in 2022. Stray Kids now holds the title for the most #1s on this chart this century. Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. For that, we have our sports editor, Paul Nitz, joining us in the studio. Welcome back, Paul.
Thank you. Hello.
Paul, why don't we start with the short track speed skating? I believe South Korea ended the ISU World Tour with 4 medals. What can you tell us?
Right. 2 gold and 2 bronze medals were won over the weekend at the final World Tour stop of the year in the Netherlands on Sunday, local time. Kim Lee won gold and Chae Min-jong bronze in the 1500 meters. Kim finished with a time of 2 minutes 26.306 seconds, while Chair came in just 2.62 seconds behind. The other gold was won by Im Jong-un, who won the men's 1,000 metres with a time of 1 minute 25.877 seconds. The other bronze, meanwhile, came in the 2,000-metre mixed relay. The team of Chair, Kim and Im, as well as Hwang Dae-hon, finished with a time of 2 minutes 38.038 seconds behind the Netherlands and the US. Now, the results impact how many places Korea will have in the Winter Olympics next year. The IOC will make the announcement on December 12th.
Fingers crossed for Team Korea. Now, moving on to another major sporting event and one that could happen here in South Korea. I believe a bid is being ready to host the AFC Asian Cup, right?
Yes, a joint bid is being readied apparently along with Japan. Now, according to a Yonhap news article on Friday, a KFA official said that a joint bid with Japan is in the works to host the 2035 AFC Asian Cup. The same officials said that working level talks have taken place with the JFA and they've formed a consensus on how the event could be co-hosted. Of course, Korea and Japan co-hosted the 2002 World Cup. In February this year, the KFA also expressed interest in hosting the 2031 Asian Cup. The AFC will announce the hosts of 2031 and 2035 at the same time, sometime in 2027. All documents must be submitted by June 30th next year. Korea has hosted the AFC Cup once, but way back in 1960, the same year, Korea won the competition.
Right, so you could say South Korea is long overdue to host again, and win for that matter too, right? Now, staying with football, the K-League 1 season wrapped up over the weekend. How did that end?
It ended with Daegu FC suffering relegation. They needed to win on the final day to beat FC Anyang and hope that Jeju SK lost to Ulsan. Daegu drew 2-2. They fought back from 2-0 down after 4 minutes with goals from Giovanni and Cezinha. But Jeju, thanks to a goal from Kim Sung-sop late on, meant that Daegu's result didn't matter. It brought an end to their 9-year stay in the first division. But Jeju, finishing 11th, aren't safe yet. They will take on Suwon Blue Wings of K-League 2 in the promotion relegation playoff 1 over 2 legs, with the first leg this Wednesday and the second on Sunday. Suwon FC in 10th will face Bucheon FC 1995 of K-League 2 in the other playoff. The first leg is this Thursday, the second on Sunday. All matches are broadcast for free with English commentary on tv.kleague.com.
I see. Now, finally, the K-League today held its annual award ceremony. Who won the main awards?
Well, Lee Dong-kyung of Ulsan won MVP and Gus Poyet of Jeonbuk won Manager of the Year. Aside from MVP, the awards were mostly otherwise dominated by Jeonbuk, who dominated K-League 1 this season. 6 Jeonbuk players were named in the best 11. Goalkeeper Song Bum-kun, defender Hong Jong-ho, and midfielders Song Min-gyu, Kim Jin-gyu, Park Jin-sop and Kang Sang-yoon. Gangwon's Lee Sung-won won Young Player of the Year.
Great stuff. As always, Paul, thanks for coming tonight. I'll see you next Monday.
Yes, thank you.
The winter cold has finally arrived across the country. The temperature this morning was above average, but it was about 6 degrees lower than yesterday morning. Tomorrow there will be sub-zero cold in Seoul at -1 degree. On Wednesday, it will be even more bitterly cold with temperature falling below zero even during the day. From tomorrow night, heavy snow is expected around the west coast areas. About 3 to 10 centimeters of snow will fall on the mountainous areas of Jeju Island, 3 to 8 on the west coast of Chungcheongnam-do and the Jeollado provinces. Tomorrow morning, Daejeon and Gyeongju will start at 0 degrees, Chuncheon at -4 degrees. Daily highs will rise up to only 3 degrees in Seoul, 9 degrees in Daegu. As a dry weather advisory is in place along the East Coast, please take extra precautions not to cause any wildfires. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.